In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 things that parents get wrong before high school and what to do about it. Most college prep advice for middle schoolers heading into high school is generic or outdated and is quietly working against your student. This isn't about what your student needs to start doing, it's about what you and them might need to stop doing. But you have a good instinct here if you're watching this video, because the families that start thinking about this now have an advantage of time that they can use before the usual timeline of when people start to think about this stuff, which is junior year. So I want to show you the 5 misconceptions that I normally see when I talk to parents who have students in 9th grade, and I'll tell you what to do about them. Myth number 1 is that great grades are enough to stand out. Grades are the thing that gets your foot in the door, but a 4.0 doesn't tell anyone who you are as a person, what your student cares about, or what they would bring to a campus if they were admitted. Great grades really just confirm that a student can do the work and can succeed academically on that campus. Because at the end of the day, colleges are academic places, and they need to make sure that whoever they're bringing in is first and foremost going to be able to have a successful academic career there. So treat grades as the baseline, not the finish line. Your students should absolutely protect their grades because it's the first thing that's going to get read. It's the first obstacle that they have to get through, but it's not going to be everything. If all of their energy goes into grades and nothing else, they're going to arrive at senior year with a transcript and a profile that just looks like everyone else's without everything else that they need on top of it that's going to show who they are and what they're going to bring to a college. Myth number 2, volunteering shows colleges that you care. The truth is that just hours by themselves don't signal impact. Anyone can log hours, and what admissions readers are actually looking for is evidence that your student's involvement actually impacted or changed something. That it wasn't just a box that they had to check off, but that they actually did it for other people, for a community, and for an organization. A student who spent 3 summers at the same nonprofit, for example, or community organization, who can't say anything meaningful about their time there and what they changed, it just makes whatever they did a line item on their resume instead of a full story that can reveal what their growth was like. A student, though, on the other hand, who noticed a gap, actually did something about the problem and can trace a line from their involvement to the outcome, that is a real story and a meaningful experience that is going to help them personally, but also have something to show for, to talk about when it comes to applying to colleges. So the difference isn't necessarily the thing that they're doing, but it's the depth of engagement and the clarity of the contribution that they brought. So what to do instead? Before your student commits to any service activity, you can just ask a simple question. What would be different about this place or this community because you showed up? If the honest answer is not much, not really anything, then it's worth reconsidering doing this thing, because service on its own isn't valuable. It has to be genuinely impactful, because genuine involvement is always more meaningful than performed generosity, and it's going to show up by the time they have to write about their experiences. Myth number 3, being well-rounded makes you a stronger applicant. This is one of the biggest myths when it comes to extracurricular profiles that parents have. A lot of parents think that colleges want to see well-rounded students, and that's not the case. If you think about it from the perspective of a college that's trying to create an environment, a student body as a whole, a class, they want a well-rounded class, but they don't want well-rounded students to make up this class. They want students who are unique, who have their own, you might hear the term spike, who have their own particular interests or deep involvement, laser focus into certain things. And when you have a variety of those students, from a college's perspective, that's how they form a really well-rounded class. To give you an analogy, if you're trying to create a sports team, let's say like a basketball team, you don't want your starting 5 out there or your whole team made up of people who can do a little bit of everything, because then they do nothing great. You have people who have specialties, and together they form a well-rounded team. When it comes back to your student, are they just well-rounded where they can do a little bit of everything, like student government, sports, and music, or a genuine interest that they've really invested a lot of time and care into? And so there's a meaningful difference. A class needs students who can go deep Whether it's the serious musician, the committed researcher, the student who built something from scratch and can talk about it for minutes, hours on end. What it doesn't need is a class full of 20,000 well-rounded students who can do a little bit of everything. So how this actually plays out is that students try to do a lot more activities in a bunch of different areas to kind of show that they're really ambitious, but it doesn't actually show that they're ambitious. It just shows that they're kind of spread all over the place. A student who quits 3 things to go deeper on one is actually a stronger admissions move than the student who joins everything just because they thought they had to and they end up leading nothing. Instead, help your student identify the 1 or 2 things that they actually care about, not the things that you or they or others think will look good to colleges. You want them to have things that they genuinely pursue when no one's looking, when no one's keeping track. Then give them the permission and the space to go deeper on those, even if it means stepping back from the things that seem impressive on paper. Depth is going to be the differentiator. Breadth is just going to be a lot of noise. Myth number 4, committing to a path early is going to give you a competitive edge. The truth is, direction is really useful, but really serious commitment translates into pressure that is not going to be useful early on. There's a version of early focus that is going to be genuinely helpful. A student who knows that they love building things or love working with other people, loves speaking in front of people, or loves making art, has like an essence to organize their high school experience around. And that level of clarity is an asset. But that's different from telling a 13-year-old that they need to pick a major right now and commit to it, that they're for sure going to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer and build their whole high school experience around it just because colleges like to see consistency and focus. That framing, that does create a lot of real anxiety, and it makes a period in a student's life around this age, a really developmental time, feel like a permanent decision that all of a sudden has a lot of weight. It often results in students who spend 4 years of high school being really performative, putting on a mask of a version of themselves that they've outgrown because they're afraid that changing course will hurt them in their future. So what to do instead? Just encourage direction instead of decoration. Help your student notice what they're drawn to, what problems interest them, and what would they explore if nobody was going to put a grade against it. You're looking for raw material at this point, because high school hasn't even started. It's the raw material that is going to form a genuine and clear narrative for them moving forward. A student who arrives at senior year with an evolved, self-discovered direction is far more compelling than a student who had themselves placed on a path because of external circumstances and that they never, changed or found their true way from it. Now, I toss the word narrative around a lot, but really a narrative develops, right? You're finding your narrative at this point and you're starting to create it. You're not writing the book from start to finish before you've even stepped foot on the journey. Think about it that way. Finally, myth number 5, winning prestigious programs and competitions is how your student is going to stand out. Man, this is the myth that I see do a lot of damage, and it's the hardest one to push back on because it feels so logical and so reasonable. Everyone knows what a national scholar is, what a AMC math competition winner is, and what it means to get into a selective summer program that has a really fancy college name like Yale or Harvard attached to it. It's really easy to chase these things because they make total sense, right? They have the brand, they have a clear, first place, second place. The metrics are super clear, and other parents understand them really easily too. And it's very easy to talk about and use those things to compare students against each other. The problem I see with this is that everyone else is chasing them too. And that's what I don't like about it. Admissions readers at selective schools have seen every version of every prestigious award, program, and competition title that exists. And they're super valid. If your student is the winner of a really competitive competition or sport or math test or whatever, that is genuinely going to benefit them. But there's only a few people out of many that win these awards because not everyone is going to be first place. So the problem I see with this is that parents think that chasing these prestigious paths is the only way for them to stand out, but it's really just tossing your student into a pool in which they have to compete against everyone else. What colleges haven't seen, what genuinely stops them when they read applications, is a student who built something original. A student who identified a problem that no one told them to even work on, and that they did work on it for 2 or 3 years, made it real, and they can talk about it with specificity and passion that only comes from actually having done the thing and cared about it. And that's not any type of program you can apply to. It's not a competition with a rubric against it. And it's not a game you play against other people, because it's a game that you carve out for yourself. It's something your student has to construct and build. And with the right support, the right framing, and enough time to let it grow into something meaningful, that is what is going to stand out. You're not trying to stand out in a sea of people. You're standing in a sea of one. So what to do instead? Start asking a different question. Not what program should my student apply to, but what problems or things does my student actually care about that they want to solve? And what would it look like to work on that seriously for the next few years? The answer to that question is the beginning of something that will actually set them apart down the line. If you found yourself nodding yes to any of this stuff, then the next thing to do is to look at how these things are seen from an admissions perspective. I have a recorded session where I did a workshop called Why Strong Students Still Get Rejected, which is basically a look at every step of the admissions review process. And you can see from that lens how all of this stuff plays out. So check it out somewhere here.